Authenticity isn't about being the loudest. It's not about performing. It's not about fitting in. It's not about people liking you. It's not about receiving validation. Authenticity is about being yourself, not shrinking for anybody else, but also not overextending who you are to be liked, to feel seen. Authenticity is about seeing yourself, allowing you to be who you want to be, regardless of what other people think. This episode is for the people that have shrunk themselves. Maybe they don't even know who they are anymore because of the backlash they've gotten from society growing up. Because as kids, a lot of us are told to be quiet, to shrink down, to conform to other people's opinions, to other people's emotions, to other people's environments, instead of just being our freaking self. And I know for me, my goofiness was like at 100 coming out the womb. And then it slowly just started to trickle down because I would be told that I was annoying. I would be told to be quiet. All these things that made me shrink down and second guess who I was. And now that I'm coming out of that, I just want to be goofier. I want to be more vibrant. I want to show who I am. But more than that, I want to be able to have a bad day and not feel the need to perform or be vibrant, to be able to be who I am every single day and to express myself how I want to in every moment without thinking in the back of my head, what are other people going to think? Am I being too much? Is this too much? Am I not being enough? Am I not saying enough? When you're living for other people, that is a miserable ass way to live. And I know you probably know that because you wouldn't be watching this. Oh, brother. And that is why I'm making this podcast, this episode specifically, because I want to show you that it's okay to be you. And I think too, with podcasts, I don't see people's personalities enough. I feel like, especially with people on the self-help podcast, it's all this like flowy, like this is the wisdom, this is the information. But no, like I want to get to know the person on the mic. Anybody else? But just like with anything, and I think that's why we feel so connected to content creators and people that show their personality, because it feels like you know them, and it's inspiring to see people be themselves and not give a flying doodle what other people think. So with that being said, welcome to Joy with Kendall. I'm so happy you're here. I'm excited for this episode because I am just now at 23 years old feeling like I am coming out of my shell. I'm allowing myself to be who I have been meant to be all these years. I'm still discovering who I am because I've suppressed all these parts of myself for so long. And some of them may come off as beautiful and goofy and amazing. Some of them may come off as awkward and cringy. Some of them may come off as sassy and bleepy. I say bleepy as in the B word. And that's okay. It doesn't matter what other people are perceiving my personality as. The only thing that matters is that I see myself for who I am, and I love that. Do you see yourself for who you are, and do you love that? For real though. Okay. Let's get into it though. Let's talk about what authenticity is not. I kind of went into this at the beginning of the episode, but I think we have this idea that authenticity is this big, vibrant word, that we have to be loud, we have to be vibrant, we have to be seen, we have to be like the highest and most best version of ourselves. That's not what authenticity is. Authenticity, in short, is you being real. Maybe you're having a bad day. Okay, and maybe you're typically really bubbly and happy. Authenticity for you, that might mean being a wallflower. It might mean not saying much because you're not having the best day and you don't feel like you have the most energy. So you're just going to sit on the sidelines and internalize, maybe what's going on around you without saying much because you don't feel like it. Maybe you feel low energy. That's okay. But it's also okay if you want to say a lot, if you want to be loud, if people are constantly like, you speak too loud, you need to be quiet. Don't let anybody tell you that. Speak as loud as you want, okay? Don't conform to other people's beliefs or needs. Because I know for me growing up, I had a primary caregiver that would dictate the energy of the house. If you were being too loud or you were being a burden in whatever way for them because they had a bad day, they would let you know and they would make you feel like crap about it. And it would make you shrink down because you don't want to make that person mad, especially when they're a parent or somebody that you look up to, somebody older, somebody that's a mentor. What they tell you, you start to absorb and think about yourself. And I want you to think about that too. When you were a kid, even as a teenager growing up, did people tell you you were too much? Why do you feel like you have to shrink down? And become aware of those patterns that happened when you were younger, because then you can take control of them and reshape them and remind yourself, wait, no, I don't have to believe those things that people told me growing up. And I think also when people think about being authentic, the external validation thing is a big hump in the road. Because when we think being authentic, that's scary. because sometimes that meant when we were younger, getting the opposite of validation. Maybe we were getting shunned. Maybe we would hear crickets after telling a joke. That was me. And so maybe being authentic feels scary. And that's okay too. And I think just becoming aware of the ways where maybe you hold back and noticing what is authentic versus how do you show up that's not authentic. And you can even make a list. How do I show up authentically right now? How do I shrink myself? Because I know for me, in the back of my head, I might feel like, oh, like I really want to dance right now. Oh my gosh, I love this song. You know, you might be, I don't know, at the club or something, and maybe none of your friends want to dance and you want to dance. That's a silly example, but it's so real. Go out there and dance. It doesn't matter if anybody else is dancing there with you. I know a lot of times when I'm like out in nature, out in a field, I just literally want to spin around with my arms and start skipping around like a little kid. Do that. Stop resisting the things that you want. The people that are judging you are the people that wish that they could be their most authentic self, that feel like they have to shrink down. And I know that because that's what I used to do. I used to judge other people that did that because I deep down so badly wanted to have the courage to do that same very thing that they were doing. So keep that in mind. The people that are judging you are not conscious of the ways that they shrink themselves down. And this episode is DAWG. What's up, DAWG? Except is discovering authenticity with grace. And the grace part of this title is going to be our anchor, because I think discovering authenticity is one thing, but discovering it with grace is another. And what do I mean by grace? I mean discovering it with open arms, with non-judgment, because I think when we discover this authenticity, it's hard to not feel these harsh judgments that were projected onto us when we were younger. The people that told us that our authenticity was too much, or whatever opinions they voiced when we were younger that made us feel like we have to shrink down, or maybe it was even our own opinions on how we felt about ourselves growing up. Maybe we had low self-esteem and created these beliefs around our authenticity. And so when you think of the word grace, when you think of authenticity, I want you to have open arms with the authentic parts of yourself, all of them. I'm not just talking about the parts that are deemed good or bad, and I want to refrain from that black and white thinking, but a lot of us do think that way when we think of different parts of ourselves, because we aren't all magical and wonderful all the time. We have bad days, and that's okay. We don't have to perform on our worst day. And I want us to think about our authenticity with compassion, acceptance, learning, all of the things you're learning about yourself. You're being open with yourself. You're being open-minded about all these different parts of yourself, and being open to the fact that you're going to change, and that you're not always going to stay the same, and you're not always going to be happy. You're not always going to be sad. You're not always going to be angry. It's okay to allow yourself to almost like surf through every part of yourself in each day, because we're different every day. I know for me, I am different on days where I have less sleep or no food. Who's with me? But no, for real. And I'm different on days where I'm sunny and I've been out in the sun all day. It's like I'm on a high because I've been out in nature all day and I feel amazing. And so if we took grace out of this equation, right? If we took grace out of authenticity, it would feel harsh, judgmental, performative. And I think that's where we get authenticity mixed up. We create our own definition of authenticity, and I encourage you to create your own definition of authenticity. What does that mean to you? What have you grown up to believe that authenticity means? Because I know for me, when I think authentic, I think about my loudest, most vibrant self, instead of thinking, oh, like it's not only that, it's also my lowest, low energy, introspective self as well, right? Because I know for me in the winter, I'm a little bit more quiet, introspective. I'm a little bit more of a wallflower. In the summer, I might be more energetic, more bubbly. Maybe I dance more and I'm just more free-spirited. And that's okay. That is authentic. If I were to try to force that in the winter when I'm not feeling that way, that would be inauthentic. For me, growing in my authenticity is allowing myself to be sassy when I feel like I need to be sassy. A part of me would always suppress my sassiness, or the part of me that wants to say something. Like if somebody says something to me that hurts my feelings or makes me feel threatened, I would in the past literally feel bad for saying something back to them or being sassy back or meeting them with that same energy. But I've realized that this has been a part of me since I was a kid. It's the part of me that's protecting myself. And it's okay also to mess up and to maybe say something that was like, oh, that was a little harsh. but you can do so without judging yourself. It is so exhausting to constantly be self-aware and think to yourself, that was mean, I shouldn't have said that, I shouldn't have done this. No, allow yourself to act exactly how you would in that moment. You can always go back, apologize. You can always go back and say, oh, I don't think I'd want to act like that again. Because I think for me and like my sassiness, I think a lot of us have this part of ourselves where we feel defensive or we feel like we have to say something back and meet their energy. And maybe we do that and maybe we decide, I don't want to do that. Next time I just want to walk away. And so that's something that I've realized with myself is not suppressing the part of myself or judging the part of myself that wants to say something back, that wants to stand up for herself, because sometimes that is what is meant to happen. And sometimes I look back on it and I say, that wasn't the best way I could have acted in that moment, but I will act differently next time. And another way that I've discovered authenticity within myself is like the weirder I am, the more authentic I feel like I'm being, because I'm a weirdo at heart and I always have been. But that was the part of me that was judged the most growing up. That was the part of me that would say a joke and nobody would say anything, or I wouldn't get a reaction and then I would shrink down and feel awkward. I always felt awkward growing up. Like anything I said or did, awkward is like the biggest word. And it's so funny because I will say or do things awkwardly on purpose. Like it's a part of my humor. And I love it about myself now. But you have to acknowledge these parts and love them for what they are. Even if other people judge them, that does not mean you have to. And so my awkward, weird, whatever self, I love. And I let that part of me come up. And it's so funny because the weirder that I am, I can see my weirdness, like other people being inspired to be more weird. Or I'll be hanging out with someone more and seeing them crack out of their shell more. As I just show my weird self, I say weird sayings and some people are like, what did she just say? But I think it's funny, so I say it. I just don't hold back from what I want to say or do. Even if it's weird, even if it's out of pocket, even if it's awkward, it doesn't matter. And I say even if, and we shouldn't even be saying that word because that's kind of conditional. I love myself. I love all parts of myself, period. And so something I've been trying to be more conscious of too is not performing on days where I don't feel like I'm my most bubbly self, because I can be super bubbly and energetic and weird and awesome, but also there are some days where I'm not feeling it. I'm feeling a little bit more low energy. I don't really want to talk much, and it's okay to be that way. And that's something I'm still becoming conscious of, because for so long I subconsciously always felt the need to perform because I never felt seen. But now that I'm aware of that, I'm like, wait, I can just make myself feel seen. Do you ever feel that way? Where you feel like you're not going to feel seen unless you're being loud or performative in some way? I feel that. Don't worry, we'll have a podcast episode on that specifically, so stay tuned for that. But with that being said, those are just some examples in my own life, but let's get into some steps so we can literally become aware of where we're not showing up authentically and how we can show up authentically. First, notice, where do you hide? Maybe it's only around certain people, environments. How do you hide yourself? Maybe you want to say something and then you're like, oh no, I'm not going to say anything. I don't think I should say anything. Or maybe you want to break out and dance a lot and you don't, and you suppress that. Maybe you want to say a joke and you just are like, no, because no one's going to think it's funny. And again, a whole nother episode coming out on like the validation part of this, because it's really hard to let the seeking validation go, because as a society, we all seek validation in some way, shape, or form. And it does feel good, right? And to our core, we want to feel loved. We want to feel validated, but we also have to feel that from ourselves. And I think the biggest part of this is validating who you are, reparenting yourself, being soft with yourself. That's the next thing. You need to be compassionate and soft with yourself. You say a joke and no one laughs. Who cares? You thought it was funny. You said it. Don't overthink, oh, what did they think of me? Oh, what did they think of me? What do you think of you? What did you think of you? Stop thinking about, oh my gosh, what did they think? Oh my gosh, they're not going to like me. Oh, they didn't like you for being authentic? Good. That means they're not meant to be in your life anyways, Pookie Bear. You know what I mean? Gosh. So yeah, looking at where you seek validation, reparenting yourself, being compassionate with yourself. And it's okay if you do start to spiral. I still do that, where I'll think in my head, oh, should I have said that? Did that come off weird? You can reparent yourself. You can be soft with yourself and remind yourself, I'm safe. I am most happy when I'm being most authentic. I'm glad I said that because that's immediately what I wanted to say and I said it. So 4 steps, but let's organize them a little bit. Number 1, notice where you hide and why. Notice who you hide around and why. If you want to go deeper, you can even go to where this part of yourself felt like it had to hide from when you were younger. Maybe go to where all of these beliefs started to come from and start to rewire them. And people get the rewiring thing so complicated, y'all. Literally, when the thought comes up that is feeling insecure, the part of yourself that's doubting yourself, just replace it with an affirmation or a different belief and stop entertaining the beliefs that you do not want to entertain anymore. It's that simple. Don't complicate it. You can go back and listen to that again, but do not overcomplicate it because it's not as complicated as we make it. 2, become aware of what parts you hide. What specific parts do you hide? Is it the part that wants to make a joke? Is it the dark part of yourself? Is it the part of yourself that performs? Notice what part specifically, because we have to become aware of what part specifically so that we can transform them. 3, let yourself act without suppression. Immediately when you want to act a certain way, allow yourself to act that way. And it's hard. You guys, this stuff takes time. You're not just going to act without suppression after listening to this episode and be completely authentic. This takes time and integration. Give yourself grace, be patient. It'll happen. And number 4, reparent, reassure yourself, and love yourself. I think the reason why we don't feel like we can be authentic is our attention outwards to what others think about us. Start to bring that inward and start to think, what do you think about you? And maybe even just start to write love letters to yourself. Write a letter to different parts of yourself. And maybe write down or visualize how you want to show up, how you want to act, or what your most authentic self would look like. Think about that. Think about what would your most authentic self look like? What would she or he do? How would they speak? How would they act? How would they walk? How would they interact with their friends? Is your most authentic self still friends with the people you are friends with now? That might be a hard one for some of you guys. Been there, done that, my friend. And it's okay if that feels scary. I promise you, no matter what, being the most authentic self, you're going to attract people that are also authentic and that love that authenticity. The more authentic I become, the more I attract people that are like me on a soul level. The more deep relationships I build, I swear. Becoming more and more authentic has literally just attracted more and more abundance because I energetically feel better. I feel more secure in myself. So I'm attracting people that are also more secure in their self, that are more authentic, that are mirroring back exactly what I'm embodying. So authenticity for me means showing up as I am every single day, not pushing down my voice or who I am or what I want to say, becoming a wallflower when I feel the need to retreat, allowing myself to dance in fields when I want to dance in fields, allowing myself to say a joke when I want to say a joke, allowing myself to say weird phrases absolutely nobody knows the meaning of because I know the meaning of it and I think it's funny. Being honest, refusing to people please, and to allow people's expectations and opinions to dictate who we are. That is how we become authentic. DAWG. See what I did there? So, discover authenticity with grace. The grace is the reparenting, the softness, the openness, the non-judgment. The authenticity is everything. It's the yin and the yang parts of yourselves. You deserve to accept yourself. You deserve to live a life where you feel like you can be yourself fully. So much freaking love for your authentic self. I freaking love my authentic self. The more authentic I am, the more I love when people are being authentic, no matter how weird, how strange. I rarely ever feel the need to ever judge others because I don't judge my dang self. And the more authentic you become, the more freeing it is because then you're just going to become more carefree. You're not going to care what other people do. You're not going to judge other people because you don't judge yourself. Genuinely. The people that are judging others will start to literally turn you off and turn you away because you're like, whoa, I love that they're being their full self because I let myself be my full self all the time. So much love. I see beauty, I see grace, I see talent within every single one of you. I hope these words were infused into this episode for what you needed to be your true self, to be your most vibrant self, and to subconsciously give people permission to do the dang same thing. So much love. I cannot wait to have the next episode released. I can't wait for you guys to listen, and please let me know what you thought of this episode. If you have any thoughts, any concerns, or want to connect, Joy with Kendall podcast and Instagram, please feel free to reach out. So much love, kisses and hugs. XO infinity. I'm out.